is misleading the American public on Iraq?
Well, I think General Petreaus is probably one of the most honorable soldiers we have in this country, and anybody who's ever known him or worked with him would attest to his honor, his sense of duty and responsibility. For people to question his integrity, to me, is not only unacceptable, it's appalling. The full-page ad that was in the New York Times by MoveOn.org is probably one of the most just, disgraceful things I've ever seen in my time as an American. And I wish every person running for president who aspires to be commander-in-chief would come out and denounce it. And I'm waiting for the Democrats to say that it's one thing to be critical of the tactics of the war, but to accuse an American general who, at this very moment, is responsible for the lives of American men and women, accuse him of treason, which is what that ad does, it's beyond anything I can imagine, and it's the kind of thing that we ought to take a unanimous and just unequivocal stand and say, this is wrong to do this to General Petreaus.
Dominic Montaro of MSNBC News suggested that you are getting top-tier media coverage. Do you believe that you've busted into the top tier of presidential candidates?
Well, I think that we certainly deserve to. We proved that in Iowa we had a stunning finish there, that our message is gaining traction. In every debate, people who watch the debates and people who analyze the debates, even scientifically, like Frank Luntz with dialometers, has said that we either win or are right there at the top of the debates, and people are responding. So if the presidency is about ideas and message and connecting with the American people, then I absolutely should be in the top tier. If it's nothing except about being rich or having rich friends and writing big checks and having money, then we're not after a presidency anymore, we're after a plutocracy.
How does your branded conservatism differ from the other candidates who call themselves conservative?
Well, one thing I've actually done these things. It's not that I just talk about conservative things. That's good. I'd rather people talk about them than not talk about them. But what I really want to see is, what have you done? And as a governor for 10.5 years, what they can see is that I cut taxes. We made government more efficient. I left the state with a surplus, not a deficit. So we didn't deficit spend. They also can see that I improved health, education, the infrastructure of our roads and our bridges. People are looking for results. And it's a wonderful thing for people to talk like a conservative. But if people have been in Washington for years and years and they've never accomplished a whole lot, then if they've not been faithful in the job that they have had, why would we elevate them to a job that they wish to have, which is even more challenging than the one they've had?
You're a proponent of the fair tax. Could you briefly explain your tax plan?
Well, the fair tax would completely overhaul our current tax code. The current tax system penalizes productivity. It penalizes you if you earn money at the corporate or individual level. It goes after you if you have money from savings or capital gains or even from inheritance. What the fair tax would do is say, look, we're not going to penalize you for earning money. You would be taxed at the point of consumption rather than at the point of earning. And that's a tax system that would empower people all up and down the economic spectrum, but especially those at the bottom so they could reach the next rung on the ladder.
More with taxes. You signed the ATR, the Americans for Tax Reform No Tax Pledge, earlier this spring. Yet the Club for Growth complains that you've raised taxes in Arkansas and you've raised spending in Arkansas. Are your fiscal stances consistent?
They're very consistent because, I cut taxes 94 times. I was the first governor in 160 years to sign a broad-based tax cut. We actually held the line on spending in my state. I got numerous points of recognition for holding the line against taxes. You have to understand that the Club for Greed, as I like to call them, is really not being an objective organization. If you give them money, they will say whatever it is you want them to say. So it's a pass-through so that people who don't have the guts to run for office can write a big check, hide behind the trees, and let the Club for Greed go do its dirty work for them. And it's just been discredited by Newsmax and by a lot of objective organizations who have looked at the record. People who know me know that I'm a fiscal conservative who cut taxes, who believes in more local government, who believes in more efficient use of taxpayer resources. But you know what? It's also flattery to know that somebody out there thinks I'm a viable enough candidate that they're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to attack me. One thing you know, if you're a hunter, You don't point your rifle at a dead animal. You only point it at something that's a trophy. So I'm a trophy to something.
Mayor Giuliani said in a debate that he would not sign the no tax pledge because he's only wants to take one oath, and that's the Constitution. You said something similar last year. Why did that change? Why did you decide to eventually sign the no tax pledge?
Well, I wanted to be sure that I wasn't signing something that was sort of superseding the Constitution. But I had a long visit with Grover Norquist of Americans for Tax Reform when I realized that what you're really saying is you're not going to raise the marginal tax rates. Well, I want to do better than that. I not only want to not raise them, I want to completely get rid of them. I want to go to a consumption tax. So I had no problem signing that because it's representative of what I want to do anyway as a candidate and as a president.
You devoted 1/8 of the state sales tax for the improvement of the state's park system and natural resources. Are you going to launch similar initiatives on the national stage should you become president?
Well, no plans to do that. That was done because our state's motto is the natural state. And we really needed to do some things for conservation. I am a conservationist, not an environmentalist, but unapologetically a conservationist. Our state has some of the most beautiful streams and lands of any place in the country. I also wanted to make sure that they were going to be able to be used by the poorest kids in the state, and not that hunting and fishing and hiking and bird watching and enjoying the outdoors would ever become the domain of a handful of people who had great affluence, while other people were denied the opportunity to enjoy it. So what we did, we dedicated a portion of our sales tax to perpetuate our natural resources and to take good care of our state. Because we looked at it this way. God had taken a lot of time to build the beauty of our state. We didn't want to be the generation that messed it up.
I think we need to wrap it up.
Okay, one more question.
One more question.
Okay. You have been very critical of the style of the current debates. Tell me why two Southern gentlemen like yourself and Fred Thompson can't get a Lincoln-Douglas style debate together.
Well, we can. All that has to happen is Fred say yes. He said on Hannity and Combs that he didn't go to the New Hampshire debate because he really wanted more one-on-one. I thought he was serious, so I said, okay, let's do it. And the Stratford County Republican Women of New Hampshire said they would host it. CNN said they would broadcast it. It was all set. But Fred decided that he didn't mean that after all. He really didn't want to do that kind of debate. I'd do it in a heartbeat. I think it'd be great to have the in-depth discussions. We're asked questions sometimes. In fact, one of the questions last week, it took more time to ask the question, setting up the scenario, than we were given to answer it. So sure, I'd love it. And if Fred changes his mind, I'll look forward to seeing him in New Hampshire.
Thank you, Governor Huckabee, for your time.
Thank you.